Well, if the GOP tax plan is ultimately passed, could it keep high tax states from raising taxes? To New York Republican Congressman John Faso on that. Congressman, very good to have you. I know you were a no on this, but the reason why I was interested in chatting with you, in New Jersey, they're actually kicking around, one of the legislative leaders in that state, kicking around the idea of nixing the millionaires tax that the incoming Democratic administration was considering because of what Washington is doing on this, removing the deduction for state and local taxes. What do you think of that?
Well, I'm not as familiar with the New Jersey situation, but I have read reports about that. And clearly, if the state and local tax deduction goes away completely, the deduction for income taxes in particular, high tax states like New York and New Jersey are going to have to reconsider their tax policies. My concern is that we're putting this on people who have certain assumptions as to what their tax liability is going to be. We're doing it as of January 1st, 2018. That's a precipitous deadline for them to meet, and it is going to upend a lot of existing arrangements in certain states like New York, and that's my problem with it.
Yeah, I mean, it hardly seems like a reward to say a state might not raise taxes that are already high because of removing a provision that allows you to write off those taxes, largely because they were high. But having said that, what do you think of this movement, that it might have the desired effect? I know you are against this measure altogether, but that states that do have disproportionately higher taxes compared to the rest of the country would have to work mighty hard to justify that in the future.
Yeah. Well, I think inevitably what we're seeing in New York State already, even before this bill could be enacted, is wealthier people and retirees are fleeing New York State in droves. And that's because of our tax policy. Governor Cuomo twice raised taxes on wealthy people in New York State, and that has precipitated some of that exodus. And people leave when they retire because of their high real estate taxes. I'm glad that the bill has a $10,000 deduction for property taxes, but the changing 114 years of federal tax policy, which says we're not going to tax as income the amount you pay to your locality and your state government in taxes, that is what is concerning to me, because it's going to make many of my constituents and many New Yorkers the collateral damage, because they are in a high tax state, and a lot of those people are going to say, hey, look, I'm going to get out of here. And that's what our fear is. We should change the tax policy in New York State, but expecting it to change as of January 1 is, I think, highly unlikely.
If it remains in there, are you a no vote?
Well, I have to see the whole thing, but certainly if it's the way it is when it first came to the House, I would be still a no vote. And this comes from someone who campaigned on the need for corporate tax reform, individual tax reform. The tax code and its regulatory process is a monstrosity, 70,000 pages. So I'm all in terms of the need to reform this. But because we're doing this through this narrow window of reconciliation where they only need 51 votes in the Senate, it causes a lot of strange results and unintended consequences. And one of those is really sticking it to people who happen to live in high-tax states. And I've had many people who have said to me, look, if this happens, I have to leave New York. And what that means, they're going to take their philanthropy, their businesses, and the jobs and the taxes they produce, and they're going to leave. And that's going to accelerate the decline of our state. Upstate New York, that I represent, is in a very precarious situation financially and economically, in large part because of the policies of Albany and what Governor Cuomo is doing to us, ignoring our needs, et cetera. But taking away this deduction as of January 1 is not the way to fix this problem.
All right, Congressman, thank you very much.
Thank you.